this computer. I'm Bruce McGee.
And I was Steve Payne.
And we're here today with Mary Gauthier. Hey, Mary.
Oh, it's so nice to be with people who know how to say my name.
Bring that up. How often do you get your name mispronounced?
Every single day.
Well, I'm a McGee, and just trying to spell that without looking at it. So I'm Magi or Magi, but Gauthier, I imagine, is even worse. So.
It's terrible, yeah. In Louisiana, it's a common name, especially in South Louisiana. But man, it's rough. God. It's rough everywhere else. Boy, you know what? I just did an interview with Canadians, and they got it right. Yeah.
I was just up in Maine a couple of weeks ago, and not only is it a lot cooler most of the time, but they've got a lot of French names, because it's right across the bay from them. So it's kind of familiar.
Yeah, the Acadia National Forest. I always wonder, is that why they call South Louisiana Acadiana?
Yes, it is.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, it's all shades of Evangeline by Longfellow, but we actually have podcasts about that. But we're bringing you on today because you've come out with a new memoir, and I see it in the behind you there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it is part memoir, part songwriting instruction for songwriters, and overarchingly, the big idea is my philosophy of art, which is that I think music and songs and art in general can be a form of spirituality and can be transformative for practitioners and listeners and fans alike. And it doesn't have to be, but it can be. There's a really big umbrella that we stand under when we talk about music and song. And I wanted to talk about what makes a song matter. And for me, I think it attaches itself to real life in tangible ways that lets us know we're not alone. And this is where meaning and mattering comes into the conversation.
And I was, on that note, really impressed with your work with veterans who came back with PTSD and how the music kind of helps them put their lives back together, writing songs.
Well, it helps them articulate who they are. It helps them articulate what they've been through, and it helps them to then be witnessed and not be alone in their story. So many people share that story. To be witnessed and acknowledged and to hear those words, me too, is a big deal when you're really hurting. PTSD is a bear. It's just awful.
Also, the military, it's man code, toxic masculinity. We keep everything locked in and we don't talk about it. I'm going to go in this room and talk to somebody about my feelings. But what we do as guys is we relate over a project. If we're hunting, if we're fishing, or if we're sitting down and here's this guitar and we're working on a song together. And sometimes you can probably get stuff out of them that a professional can't because they're working on the song with you. So they're collaborating. You'll have a project.
Yeah. Well said, Bruce. Yeah. And also, I'm sitting in non-judgment. No matter what they say, I don't have a value judgment on that. I'm just bearing witness and trying to help them articulate their truth and get it into a song. And so they can experience that non-judgment emotionally. They feel safe.
Right.
Because they are safe. I have no judgment on what I'm told. None of us do. We're trained that way to bear witness and don't insert yourself. So right. Part of what I do is send them a yes vibe. The nodding of the head, the softening of the voice, the eye contact, and encourage honesty and vulnerability and create a container of safety so that the real story comes out.
Right.
That sounds related to music therapy in a way. Is that fair to say? Or
What we like to say is that it's not therapy, but it is therapeutic.
Ah, very good.
Because we're not trained therapists. We really are songwriters.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's get into the book some, and it's Saved by a Song. And what's the art and healing power of songwriting? Um, I've got trifocals, Mary. I try to see through these things. Anyway, I was confused. About 3 chapters in, I realized I was confused and a little can't quite figure out what's going on with the book. And I love the book; it's great. But I was confused, so I went back to the beginning and started looking. And Saved by a Song. That is kind of what the book is, the way you arrange it, the way you organize your material. Each chapter begins with a song that mostly written by you, but sometimes by somebody else. And then the chapter is your life as it is reflected in that song. So, after I figured that out, then it made a lot more sense. But this is a new kind of organization to me. So how did you come up with that way of writing your book?
Well, I needed to hang it on some kind of a structure. And somewhere in the writing process, I realized if each chapter was a song, that would give me a way in to the story. And the story starts with me getting sober. And I got sober as the result of being arrested for a DUI. July 1990, I got sober. And then I worked through a lot of my own troubles and traumas and my challenges that turned me into a problem drinker in the first place. I worked through a lot of that using music and song. And then I get into this amazing opportunity to work with veterans and people who've served dealing with their own trauma using music and song. And so each song is a deepening of my understanding of the songwriting process. And so I'm trying to share that with the reader as I become more and more masterful, if you want to use those words, in my craft. I want to explain to the reader, the songwriters especially, what I'm learning as I go.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, let me be the first to say happy 31st birthday.
Yeah, it's coming up. Thank you. You are the first.
I was looking around for a cupcake, but my kid ate them all. So, so you still going to meetings and things?
Oh yeah. My recovery is very connected to the 12 steps and to the fellowships.
Right.
I can't do it alone. I don't have the power. And I've never convinced myself that I did have the power, which is probably why I'm still sober.
Yeah, when you get well, that's a problem.
I haven't gotten well yet. I'm still working on all kind of things.
Right. Well, and the Zoom meetings have been a lifeline for a lot of folks this last year because
it's been incredible.
Shut down for a while.
Yeah, and it's been incredible, to go onto the Zoom meetings and be able to be in meetings with people all over the world.
Right, yeah. I noticed in your book you said first day you got there, people weren't all that thrilled to see you, which normally people say, I was welcomed and people were hugging me. And so did you clock what was going on? Like, what was up with that?
Well, I think I was terrified, and when I'm terrified, I look angry. I have that really special gift of when I'm afraid, I get bigger instead of smaller. It's very, it's sort of a male attribute. It's a masculine thing that I do. A lot of women, when they're scared, they just cry and look for somebody to help them. I just get bigger. Right. I think it's kind of from being on the street as a kid and moving through all the stages of addiction and drug world that hide fear.
Right.
So I looked angry. I wasn't angry though. I was scared.
Right.
That whole thing was frightening to me. The
Well,
whole
the
idea.
only other person with that experience, April 1st, 2005, it was April Fool's Day and it was a Friday, which is a great day to start A&A. And I was dressed for school. I'm a teacher, and I had my tie and a blazer on, and I grabbed a 3-ring binder and went over to the meeting during my lunch break. And boy, they were staying away from me in droves. It was like if I took a step towards somebody, they just kind of darted the other way. And finally, about after 3 meetings, I saw they had this book that they were using, and I said, "Where can I get a book?" And I pointed to Mitch over there. Go talk to Mitch. And then they ran off. So I talked to Mitch, and he sold me a book for $6, the big book. And said, Rose, the way you bring that binder in and the jacket and everything and the tie, you get people nervous. They think you're a cop. So I am not a narc officially, but I think it's the haircut maybe. But something about the vibe I was giving off. But no, they didn't want anything to do with Bruce. So I was just wondering if, some other person who had not been welcomed at first, they didn't kick me out. But,
Well, that's an interesting story that you look like a cop. I wrote in the book, I looked like an angry short order cook just out of prison.
well, and that kind of tracks because you had gone into a chef school, right? Cooking school?
Yeah, I was in my chef coat, and I always showed up to meetings in a dirty chef coat after work. Looked like I should probably be carrying chef knives or something.
Well, and they probably thought you might be. So where did you go to chef school?
Yeah, I went to chef school at the Cambridge School of Culinary Arts and opened up a Louisiana-style restaurant on Massachusetts Avenue in Boston.
Up in Boston. Stephen, that may be the one you heard.
Yeah, I lived on Mass Ave.
You did?
Yeah, I went to Harvard Divinity out of Louisiana Tech, and I was in Cambridge.
Oh, yeah.
Tell your story about the Cajun food in Boston.
Yeah, I was going back I went to the square one day. I think I either had to go to the bank or go to the barber. I don't know which. It was some sort of personal business to handle down in Harvard Square. So I came out of wherever I was, and lo and behold, there was our student dean, or dean of student life, and I happened to see him, and I think he spotted me too, and so we got to chatting. We walked all the way back, to the Divinity School campus together, a couple hundred yards. And anyway, he says to me something about there was a Cajun restaurant opening there in the square. Which, depending on when you were up there, this could have been your place even opening. But anyway, I said, you do realize, I said, that was good. But I said, you do realize I'm from the hill country in North Louisiana near Arkansas. And I said, it's not Cajun where I'm from, But yeah, it was
Nobody
a big deal
knows
with
about
him.
us up in North Louisiana.
Yeah.
No, Louisiana gets stereotyped as New Orleans.
Yeah. I mean, I had a friend. I mean, that's the other thing, the sequel to what Bruce was just saying, where he, very first day, a really friendly sort of a guy from Pittsburgh, I think. Anyway, he says to me, how far are you, quote, from New Orleans? So, I mean, this is the kind of question that I would get occasionally. I and a friend of mine who was also from Ruston, up here in North Louisiana, and we would get these kinds of questions.
Yeah.
So we were always having to explain ourselves, all the time.
It's a much bigger state than people realize. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a long state. Well, let's go back and start from the beginning. I believe in your book you said you spent the first year of your life in a children's home or orphanage in New Orleans.
That's correct.
And then your parents adopted you, and they lived in Thibodaux, is that right?
They lived in Baton Rouge. They were from Thibodaux. And when they got divorced, we all moved back to Thibodaux. Even though they got divorced, they both moved back to Thibodaux, and Mom took me and my brother and sister with her, and Dad got an apartment, and we all went to Thibodaux for a little while, and that's where I ran away, and I just couldn't deal. Just couldn't go from Baton Rouge to Thibodaux very well. Plus,
how old were you when you went to Thibodaux?
Ninth grade.
Oh, so you're almost grown.
Mm-hmm.
You really grew up in Baton Rouge.
I grew up in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
You grew up across town from me. That's where I grew up.
In Baton Rouge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way out near the Amite, about 2 miles east of the, I'm sorry, 2 miles west of the Amite River Bridge. Yeah, going towards Livingston Parish.
Yeah, I know where that is. Yeah.
Yeah, way out there. It's part of the city now, but in those days it was out. You know, it wasn't the country, but it was out on the outskirts. You know, right outside of town.
Right.
But yeah, that explains your accent, because Baton Rouge is kind of crossroads for the state, and you don't really have the Thibodeau accent.
No, I didn't stay there long enough to get that Cajun thing going. I can do it, but it's not good. It's an impersonation.
It's a Justin Wilson kind of thing. That guy grew up in Amite, by the way. So so you're growing up. When did you find out that you'd been adopted? Like
always.
Always.
Yeah.
And at some point you become aware that you're a lesbian, you know, and it's one thing to be a lesbian in 2021. It's quite different probably back in the 70s and 80s. So what was that like for you?
Not fun. It was necessary for me to find my people. I needed to find some more people like me, and I did. There were a couple of gay bars in Baton Rouge, and I found my folks, and ended up working in a gay club for a couple of years while I was at LSU. And not everybody who went to the gay clubs back then was gay. There were a lot of, I don't know if they were allies or they just liked the dancing music, but it was a pretty mixed up crowd of a lot of people that were accepting of us outlier types. But I really did find my community there, but it increased my drinking and drug
What years would that have been?
That would have been in college, so 82 to 86.
I came there in 88 to work at grad school. Of course, it's a little different as a grad student. You don't get quite the collegiate, but I remember, like, I'm this Southern Baptist preacher from Western Louisiana, and I'm in the mailroom for the English department one day, and you might not know this. You probably do. A lot of gay people in English departments, like.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, a bunch of us grad students went over to the student center for lunch, and as we ate, I gradually became aware I'm the only straight guy here. But I kind of fell in with that crowd. You know, I don't know. I was just fresh off the seminary, and I was ready to be different a little bit. These folks were different a little bit, so
it worked.
It did. Anyway, you get into you know, you find your people there, you find your tribe, you're starting to drink more. And when did you go to culinary school?
I did that after I moved to Boston. I moved to Boston around 88, and worked in a bunch of restaurants, and then I found some investors to open my own little place, and they sent me, I asked them to send me to culinary school so that we could have our own catering kitchen instead of buying food from other kitchens, which we were doing. I wanted to open our own, but first I needed to get an education in the field. So
is it as much business as it is cooking? Because that seems to be the really hard thing, is keeping a restaurant open.
Yeah, it's more business than it is cooking, actually. I learned a lot about the fine art of cooking, but, you know, in a restaurant, you got to move fast, and in culinary school, you move slow.
Right.
So it was kind of housewife culinary school or something. It didn't teach you how to be in a restaurant and work a line and be under that pressure. You know, 196 seats fill up in 10 minutes. Now feed everybody.
Right.
You know, so I had to learn that like I learned everything. You just go do it and figure it out while you're on fire.
Yeah.
Exactly. You learn on fire.
It seems not to be a good fit for a lot of people, that kind of program, if that makes any sense, because it's almost like it's gearing the student towards one track or one path. as opposed to giving them the tools they need to follow a lot of different paths if they want to.
Yeah, they'll teach you how to cook,
Yeah.
but you can't spend 2 hours working on one dish.
No,
You know, but
it's not
you
like the
learn a
cooking
few.
shows.
It's like you learn a few chops that are useful, but mostly the way to learn how to be in a restaurant business is go get in the restaurant business and work up from
Yeah.
dishwasher to
Right,
prep
right.
cook
Yeah.
to sous chef to salad line to expediter to front of the house stuff. Learn every position and do it in the intensity of the rush and get good at it. That's how you really do it.
Right. You learn it
It's
by
almost like any other. I mean, my dad was a welder, and it's almost like being in any of the skilled trades where the best way to learn it is to go and apprentice to somebody who already does it,
I
and
think
hang
that's
out
how
with
you.
them and their
Yeah,
hang
I
out
think
with them and
that
their colleagues.
that's it. That's how you do it.
Well, and you had an advantage that a lot of guys don't, in that you're from Louisiana, so you grew up around good food and good cooking. So, you probably brought some of that with you when you went up. It's just we have a reputation, right?
Yeah, and I did. I had my grandparents on both sides owned restaurants.
Oh,
And
wow.
my father's mother and my mother's father owned restaurants in that little town of Thibodaux. So we had that in the family, and I knew good Louisiana food. Having grown up there, I knew cheap, impale, terrible imitations, and I knew the real deal. I know what jambalaya is supposed to taste like.
Right.
I know what gumbo is supposed to taste like.
You
I know
how
what
to make a roux.
yeah, I know the different colors of roux for different ingredients.
Right.
The real dark roux for certain things. I learned all that as a kid, so I went in knowing that already. But I did have to learn other things, and so yeah, being in the restaurant business was a great way for me to learn business, which then I could apply to the music business.
Right, because it's a business too. So let's get to chapter 1 then, where you have your wreck and get in recovery. I guess through all this time, you're drinking and drugs or whatever escalating and gets out of control for you. You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah. If you want to put gasoline on the fire of alcoholism, work in a restaurant.
Right.
The intensity and the adrenaline of it all. Really, it's hard to just shut it down when you go home, and the tendency is to have a few drinks with the crew after you're shutting down and stuff. But I got sober, and in a few years after I got sober, I started writing songs, and that's been the road I decided to take, and walked away from the restaurant 10 years after I opened it.
Wow. So that's once you get into recovery, you're supposed to find a higher power. And did you grow up Catholic?
I did.
And what had your relationship with Catholicism been, seeing that, they aren't the most gay-friendly denomination out there?
Yeah, there. I don't know of any gay-friendly denominations out there. We haven't gotten there yet.
Unitarians are pretty good.
Is that a denomination? I thought that was a non-denomination.
Maybe. They're not an organized religion.
An unorganized religion. They sent me to Catholic school. It didn't take. I just didn't buy it. The nuns were mean and the priests were scary, and I desperately needed kindness. And what I got was an authoritarian, scary, I think, pretty dark situation.
I went on the internet and looked up your old orphanage you had lived in as a kid. It looks like, and now it's a hostel, but it didn't look like they've done a lot to change it. And it's the kind of place looks like if American Horror Story decided to film another season in New Orleans, that would be the building to do it. It's very severe, you know.
It's severe. It's terrible. It's now a boutique hotel. A lesbian from Austin who has had success in the restaurant business has opened it as a boutique hotel. I didn't. I wasn't on the advisory committee, but I will say this: it, in my opinion, is haunted, and that place has been the headquarters of so many generations of pain.
Oh yeah, right.
I myself went back and visited it when it was a hostel. And it's just haunted, and
Yeah.
I don't think you can take the spook out of it.
Right.
So the idea of putting a boutique hotel in there to me is off-putting. It
Right.
just seems like trauma tourism to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
So,
call it that. Those things like that. You've heard of poverty porn. It's almost like trauma porn.
Yeah, turning mental institutions where people were tortured and
Right.
and medicated against their will, and
Yeah.
prisons and orphanages into boutique hotels. This is a thing that's happening.
Well, there's a big tour of Alcatraz in, where's San Francisco?
Out in the Bay Area.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a tour of Alcatraz is one thing, but if you turn Alcatraz into a boutique high-end hotel,
I know.
now
right?
now you're talking trauma tourism.
Really creepy. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not for me, and in a lot of ways it's off-putting to me, but no one asked my opinion.
So when you got to AA, and you're supposed to find a higher power, did you fall back on the Catholicism you grew up with, or did you find another path going forward?
Well, for the longest time, I just used the group
Right,
of drunks,
right.
God.
Mhm.
That there was a power in the group that I couldn't find on my own. That
Right.
somehow together we're able to stay sober. Somehow this group of screw ups is able to help each other in ways that really matter.
Mhm.
And so the fellowship and the group really was a higher power for me. Not an individual, but the collective. And I still think of it in that way. But I also have a sense that there's a channeling that happens when I write songs and when I perform, that I'm pulling from a place that's different than the material world. And I can't articulate it, and I would never turn it into a religion or a theology. But I do have faith in something bigger than myself. And I think that's really all that's required. I don't need to fully articulate it or make sense of it. I just have a sense that it's there.
When I first got to that building I told you I went to, there was this tall cowboy who would stand up. He didn't sit down at the meeting. Meetings were pretty crowded. Some people that stood around the edges, and he would always talk about the God of his misunderstanding. And I said, that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I've heard people say that too, that the God of my I don't know. Yeah.
I went to New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary for 8 years, and then I'm a doctor of theology and a master of divinity, and I took my degrees and I walked out the door and I burned down my life. So I gave up on trying to have the answers, and what I needed was power, of course. So are you up for singing a song for us? Or,
Yeah. So grab some.
so it strikes me as maybe your most Catholic song. It strikes me as maybe your most Catholic song, based on echoing the old litany. And when you say old in Catholicism, you think Latin, but this is so old, it's Greek. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. You put your own spin on that. And if you were to sing Mercy Now for us,
Be happy to.
thank you.
Yep. So many years. Lord have mercy.
Right.
Have mercy. Oh, so
Lord
many
have
years. So many. That's in there. It's
sank
definitely in there. You know what? Until you said that, I didn't make the connection.
Oh, really? That's funny, right? Well, you
Didn't
might have
make
been
it.
scared. I mean, everybody that's ever written a mass, that's Beethoven, Brahms, Bach, all of them. I don't know Bach. He might have been. I think he did. They all wrote a Kyrie eleison, so you might have been scared to deal with it if you thought about, oh, I'm trying to do my spin, but you came at it independently.
Ignorance is bliss in this
Oh, right,
scenario.
right, yeah.
But that actually really resonates. It. I think there's probably something to it. That's the most humble part of the Mass,
Mm-hmm.
where the most arrogant of priests is asking for mercy.
Right, right. Yeah, but we're not going to show Joe Biden mercy.
Oh, yeah, those right-wing Catholics are flexing. I don't think they're the majority. I think they're a vocal minority.
The Catholic Church years ago came to an understanding because for them, and I'm a theologian, so for them, the idea of being gay is the same as taking contraceptives. It's contra natrum. It's getting in the way of conceiving. If you aren't having straight, sex, then you might not conceive, and therefore it's a sin. And it's all the same sin, basically. Years ago, they came in understanding with the young couples. If you'll get married in the church and raise your 2.3 children in the church who are well spaced out, we won't ask where all the other kids are that you aren't having. And they could easily make that accommodation for their gay members. They just haven't made it there yet.
We're getting there. Father Martin, Sister Helen Prejean, there's leaders that have followers. I love those two Catholic voices.
Yeah.
Father Gregory Boyle in L.A. There's, Franciscans. There's the outliers that accept more than reject. I think that we'll get there, and it might take another 1,000 years if the planet survives, but we'll get there. We'll get there. First they have to come out and then deal with their own internalized homophobia.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of it, isn't it?
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, you think what kind of person is going to forego straight marriage and go to an all same-sex organization, either nuns in their orders or priests in theirs and monks? Might be a few gay people.
It's in some of the mainline Protestant denominations. I mean, my dad grew up in one of them that will go unmentioned on air, and it's full in the South. It's full of a lot of right wingers. I mean, that are just hard right, mean, self-righteous, etc. And they're about this particular denomination, and I'll drop a hint, is about to split. And the right wingers are just really vocal about all this, So,
yeah, well, maybe it should split, and then the embracing Christians can grow their their group.
Yeah, the kids are leaving the right wing.
Vote with their feet, as the saying goes.
They can't stand that judgmentalism.
Yeah, they're voting with their feet. That's what.
Let's get back. Goes. Yeah, let's get back to love and mercy and tolerance and a sense of compassion for everyone.
Yeah. Right.
That's all. It's so simple. It gets overlooked. I remember a priest. He was called the Saint of 9/11. Do you remember him? His father, Michael Judge.
Yeah.
He was the fire department priest in New York City, and he was a gay man. He was abstinent. Because he had taken his vows, but he acknowledged that he was gay, and he was beloved by the firemen. Mm-hmm. And he was the first known casualty of 9/11. He was also sober. He was both openly gay and openly alcoholic in recovery, and he was a beloved figure. And there's a movement to make him a saint. So we can focus on.
Was there a movie of his life?
Yes, and it's such a great movie. His ministry with men with AIDS, In the 90s. He was compassionate and kind when they were putting crime scene tape on the hospital doors and nobody, not even food service, would go in the room. Father Michael would go in and rub their feet. He was a beautiful, beautiful man. And so these people do exist. If we could just shine a little more light on them, I think we could find some of what we're looking for inside the religion. And now look at me arguing for it. I mean, I'm not a practicing Catholic, but there are practicing Catholics that I deeply respect.
Well, and they could use some mercy now.
Absolutely.
You're living by the spirit of the law too, not the letter.
Amen. Well, my father sure could use a little mercy now. The fruits of his labor fall and rot slowly on the ground. His work is almost over. Won't be long, he won't be around. I love my father. He could use some mercy now. And my brother sure could use a little mercy now. He's a stranger to freedom, shackled to his fear and doubt. The pain that he lives in, it's almost more than living will allow. I love my brother. He could use some mercy now. My church and my country, they could use a little mercy now. As they sink into a poison pit, it's gonna take forever to climb out. They carry the weight of the faithful who follow them down. I love my church and country. They could use some mercy now. Every living thing could use a little mercy now. Only the hand of grace can end the race towards another mushroom cloud. There's people in power who'll do anything to keep their crown. I love life, life itself could use some mercy now. We all could use a little mercy now. know we don't deserve it, but we need it anyhow. We hang in the balance, we dangle between hell and hallowed ground. And every single one of us could use some mercy now. Yes, every single one of us could use some mercy now.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Thank you.
Would you talk a little bit about writing
That deserves
song?
airplay on a lot of different stations right now.
Is it? I don't listen to radios.
Me neither. It's unlistenable.
Right. So where did that song come from?
God.
Right.
It comes from a higher
Like the Blues
place.
Brothers
It's like the Blues
and
Brothers.
a mission from God.
It connects right on up there. That was written during the build-up to the war in Iraq. George Bush was president. We were heading into a conflict I strongly disagreed with. And the Catholic Church in Boston was being exposed for protecting an ungodly number of pedophile priests.
Right.
The Spotlight series of the Boston Globe was uncovering priest after priest after priest that was a pedophile. And the current dictator of North Korea's father was testing nuclear weapons, and it looked like they were building a bomb, and I think they actually have a bomb. I think Kim Jong-un has a bomb. So I feel like that song came out of a confluence of events. My father, on a personal level, had gotten into a car crash, and when they put him in the hospital, he went into withdrawal from alcohol and seizures, and he didn't ever fully recover. So it started with my dad, and the song just expanded into what we were going through. At the time, it was about 2002.
Right. Well, and you talk about the church and country being in a poison pit, and Trump isn't even on the horizon yet. You think about how badly, where are they now? Like the bulk of the people who call themselves Christians that I know, but it's like that old saying, if you're in a hole and you want to get out, the first step, stop digging. And so they're still digging away, man. It hadn't gotten a lot better over the years.
Yeah, it was. There was a moment in the governorship of George Bush where a woman named Carla Faye Tucker was asking for a reprieve, a stay of execution. She was a born-again Christian on death row in Texas. She married the prison minister, who she never physically touched, because male ministers never, ever are allowed into death row on the female side. But she did fall in love with and marry the prison minister, who he didn't touch her until he received her body after her execution. But she was pleading for a stay of execution, and Bush held a press conference and mimicked her. He was horrible. Please don't kill me, please don't kill me. He literally did that, and you can see it. You can Google it and see him do that. And that's when my opinion of him solidified. That kind of behavior is the most unchristian thing I can conceive of.
Yeah.
It's a deep hypocrisy. It's a deep hypocrisy.
It's sad that it's just sad. It's just sad that this is the type of personality that we keep handing the steering wheel to.
Right.
And
About
so,
the
yeah,
time we
it got
did
it. I thought it was real bad, but yeah, it apparently could and did get much worse.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know if you to literally answer where did that song come from. I think it came through me far more than from me.
Yeah. And
Like a conduit, almost as though you were a conduit for it.
Exactly. I was holding the lightning rod outside the window during the
Right,
storm.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a bit about your style of playing. It's certainly not Cajun, Zydeco, New Orleans jazz. The closest I can think of it is another Louisiana artist would be maybe Lucinda Williams.
Definitely. Lou is a friend and had a big influence on me, for sure.
And
And I think we both think of ourselves as folk singers. She's more of rock and roll, and I'm a little more country, but we're both Louisiana natives that like to sing stories.
right,
Yeah.
like Lake
Yeah.
Charles, man, that's a song.
What a great songwriter she is. What a great, great songwriter.
Yeah,
Bruce,
Well,
was she the one whose dad or mom taught at LSU while you were
yeah, I
down
think
there?
so.
That's right. Miller Williams was an incredible poet. And Lou grew up like going to visit Flannery O'Connor with her
Oh
dad.
my God, right?
I know. Some people have bus envy in Nashville. I grew up going visit Flannery O'Connor with my dad envy.
Right, yeah, totally. Well, and one other thing about that song, it's been widely covered. And
Yeah.
you got to think, a song like that, who do you want covering it? And of course, I'm sure the Mormon Tabernacle Choir writes some powerful checks. But my favorite cover is this Long Haul Paul,
Yeah.
trucker. Do you know this guy?
He's a friend. We wrote a song together in the pandemic called Truckers and Troubadours.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's a long haul truck driver with a gravelly voice
Yes.
who sings sincerely, and I love Long Haul Paul, and I love his version. Like you said, it's probably one of the very best covers of my song.
It's not about being pretty. It's about what does it mean. He sings
Exactly.
it out to this father, I believe it's Giuseppe in Italy, who had, at the height of the pandemic there, when they had no medical supplies, he gave up. He's a 72-year-old priest, and he gave up a ventilator so a younger person could have a chance to live. And then he sings that song. Oh my God.
It's the real deal, called love and sacrifice service.
Yeah. The minute you give up on the church, somebody like that comes along and
Can't you can give up on the church, but we can't give up on the Catholics.
no, there's some real good ones.
So many good ones. Oh my gosh, yes.
You want to sing us another song? I'll let you pick this one out.
Sure. Well, he'd get home at 5:30, fix his drink, and sit down in his chair. Pick a fight with mama, complain about us kids getting in his hair. At night he'd sit alone and smoke. I'd see his frown behind his lighter's flame. Now that same frown's in my mirror. I got my daddy's blood inside my veins. Fish swim, birds fly, daddy's yell, mama's cry. Old men sit and think. dinner. 6 minutes on defrost and 3 on high. Beer to wash it down with another, then some whiskey on the side. It ain't so bad alone here. It don't bother me that every night's the same. I don't need another lover hanging round trying to make me change. Fish swim, birds fly, lovers leave by and by. Old men sit and think. I drink. I know what I am, but I don't give a damn. Fish swim, birds fly, daddies yell, mamas cry. Old men sit and think. I drink.
Oh, I love that song. Ever sung that at an AA dance?
I should.
Oh yeah, man. Well, it kind of gets into the family dynamics of where does this stuff come from?
Yeah, and I think it's a song that just is in your face with the reality of alcoholism as opposed to the glorification of alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
And this character is just matter of fact. I'm going to drink myself to death, and that's how it is.
That's the way my daddy was.
Yeah, my daddy too.
Well, mine was a teetotaling Baptist, but my grandfather was a brutal, periodic alcoholic, and Dad fought against alcohol his whole life. Like, he just couldn't stand the thought of it. But I've wondered if, he was suffering from untreated Al-Anonism, which is a thing,
Oh yeah,
He got depressed.
it's a big thing actually,
Yeah, right.
and it's got its own deadly way too.
Yeah.
I mean, people die from the other side of the disease too. I learned late in sobriety when I found Al-Anon. Oh yeah, it'll kill you.
It will, yeah. And the part about coming home and scowling and the kids are in his hair, that was kind of my dad, at times. Even though he was a teetotaling Baptist, he still didn't want you changing the TV channel while he was taking his nap. It woke him up and he was cranky. Of course, we had one TV in the house because why would you ever have two? So, yeah. I can relate, even though our family were superficially very different. My dad was the guy that kept Ruston dry. My best friend lived a block away, and his dad was the local bootlegger. So that's the way small towns work.
That makes sense.
I found my way down there pretty soon.
That reminds me of that song of and even some of the others to a degree, but particularly that one, of these film soundtracks and these film plot lines where the protagonist has moved back home, like the exile and return narrative, and they moved home in order to bury a loved one or something that's really profound and oftentimes very tragic or sad has happened, and the event forces them to come to terms with a lot of things, some kind of childhood trauma or crises or whatever else. I mean, I don't know if that even makes any sense, but that song kind of had that feel to me.
Yeah.
It ought
Yeah.
to be part of a soundtrack in a way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's need for redemption.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and that's kind of similar to your Mercy Now song. The need for redemption, the need for, and I think the spirituality of that song ties in with AA as much as it does the Catholicism, because whatever your idea of your higher power is in AA, it's got to be a higher power that shows mercy, right? Because
Absolutely.
everybody that comes in that door, nobody walks in the door whistling with the big book under their arm.
You show up in need of mercy, and you're given it by the group, and eventually you find your way into something that is bigger than yourself, that is merciful, and that's how it works.
Right?
And then you figure out how to be of service.
Mm-hmm. And part of that is showing mercy to others.
Amen.
And sometimes they're cranky about it. Like, I would come in the meeting and this old timer, I'd look at the door and say, meeting starts at 8, because, I'd be late. And, well, a lot of folks show up, they don't know how to show up on time for anything. That's their part of it. But also, if you get there late and don't talk to anybody and leave early, I've seen those guys, and their chances are less than average. If you show up early, you get to go to the meeting before the meeting, you get some numbers, people start calling you, and you get plugged in. So
That's right.
There was a lot behind the Grumpy Joe, shtick, and he didn't feel the need to go into that for.
You figure it out along the way.
You're right. You're a dumbass newcomer. I'm just telling you, the meeting starts at 8, dude. Well, do you have time for one more song?
Sure.
Okay, so Stephen and I are old radicals, and nothing warms the heart of an old radical like a protest song, especially if it has a harmonica. So how about the Sugar Cane song?
Sure, if I can find that key. That's a B, I think, the harmonica. That is a bit of a protest song, actually. It's about the Louisiana sugarcane fields, and are they still doing that?
Oh yeah. If you drive around South Louisiana after Thanksgiving, you will see 18-wheelers turned over full of sugarcane. It's just
They still burning it off to harvest it?
Yeah. Bruce and I have or at least Bruce may or may not know this guy, but there's a guy down in, I think, New Iberia, and he's all when we see him a lot. He's a lefty like Bruce and me, and he's always posting aerial shots. He's a pilot down there and also a business owner, and he shows shots and also short film clips of himself flying around and filming the cane burns all around the Gulf Coast, down there below New Iberia and that area.
Yeah, it's toxic.
But sugarcane was always a difficult crop. That's why people like slaves around the country were afraid of being sold south to Louisiana, because sugarcane was such a bitch to deal with. There have been massacres around sugarcane, so it's been a problem going way back. As well as
it was a death sentence in essence.
Yeah, as well as an avenue for a few people to get very, very wealthy, and the rest of us to get fat.
Boys, there are stories there. There's a guy from the Harlan Renaissance wrote a book called Cane. Deep, deep book. His name just blew out of my head, but what it means to a black man, that's there is the real story of Cane.
Mm-hmm. It's got the Cain and Abel too.
Double meaning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see if I can do this for you here. Mama says she don't give a damn what those people say. Cane smoke can't be good for you when you breathe it in every day. Every year at harvest time, when the black smoke filled the skies, she'd pick me up, she'd take me home, make me fill. Dirty air, dirty laundry, dirty money, dirty rain. Dirty rock at brain, burning sugar cane. Christmas on the bayou, midnight's coming on. I'm driving past the sugar mill, all the lights are on. They burn the leaves to harvest cash, money for the company. Money makes the world go round. Money, money, money. Tiptoe Raceland, they got fire in the field. All the way up the bayou from the Fouche to Iberville. Dirty air, dirty laundry, dirty money, dirty rain. A dirty dark daybreak, burning sugar cane. First came the sugar cane, then came Thibodeau. Cane sugar built this town, cane sugar paved the road. They burn the leaves, harvest cash, money for the company. And money makes the world go round. Money, money, money. Sudden ash are falling like a dark and deadly snow. The air is full of poison to the Gulf of Mexico. Dirty air, dirty laundry, dirty money, dirty rain. A dirty deal with the devil, burning sugar cane.
Oh my God, Mary, that's such an awesome song. So by way of explanation, when they get ready to harvest sugar cane, the leaves are in the way. And so they try to burn off the leaves and leave the stalks. And if everything works right, it's still a horrible mess. But sometimes the fire gets away and just blows up everything.
It's just soot and ash. Yeah. I mean, people down in Thibodeau think it's like, oh, they're burning the cane. It smells good. Smells like sugar. Smells like Christmas.
Oh,
Because
Mary,
the harvest is in December.
it smells like money.
Yeah, it smells like
Yeah.
money. It smells
Yeah,
like
that's what
Christmas
they-
presents for the kids.
That's
That's
what
what
they
my-
used to say about the paper mill up at Spring Hill, where my parents lived when they first got married. You know, it smells like money.
Yeah,
That
those,
was a
those
common
paper
statement
mills
around town.
smell awful, and they peel the paint off of cars.
Oh, I remember the smell of the paper mill and the smell of the bagasse, the byproduct of sugarcane. It smells like a paper mill. It just stinks.
It smells like money, is what they always say when you start complaining about it.
Or that, or it smells like ham and eggs. I've heard that too.
Ham and eggs, my ass. It smells like garbage. It stinks. But I tell you what, the sound, the Nashville sound, they used to ask me about the Nashville sound, and I always say it's, you just don't have a Nashville sound. You just jingle the coins in your pocket. That's the Nashville sound.
The
Money.
Nashville sound. Yeah. What made you decide on going to Nashville to pursue your music as opposed to New Orleans, which is also a big music city?
I don't think New Orleans is a big music city. I think New Orleans is a jazz city.
And they don't have this. Do they have the recording?
Nope, they
Set
don't
up?
have any infrastructure. They don't
Right,
have
right.
publishing houses, record companies. They don't have the management and the all of the infrastructure needed to support the music businesses here in Nashville.
Which
And
seems like
it's here because of the Opry. When the Opry landed
yeah.
here, it could have been Shreveport, the
Right,
hayride,
right.
Louisiana
That's right.
hayride. It could have been, but they blew it. It came to Nashville.
Well, and Louisiana has overlooked they could build that infrastructure. We're always looking for ways to spend government money to boost the local industry, and it's always oil and gas. So, take a couple of million, set up a few recording studios, the infrastructure to get. Of course, music is going through so many changes now; it's hard to even make a living in it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Big tech has convinced people that they're in the music business. They're not. They're in the tech business.
Right.
And
Right.
and basically there's been a heist. They came and got our money and they got away with it. They got away with it.
Yep. Yep. That's it. That's that's so true.
It's a cultural heist too, where they turn out this stuff that is meant to sound like music from Louisiana, whatever that means, and it's all a bunch of synthetic stuff. In essence, it doesn't sound like the music that people from our state would write or perform.
Your music seems very honest, like using acoustic instrument or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
electric guitar, but you're using real instruments, not
Yeah, that's my deal. That's where I'm
auto
coming from.
tuning your voice. It doesn't sound like to me.
Yeah, no, I just want to be authentic and sing from the heart to the heart. And it's a small business. It works. It keeps me employed. And
Keep you out of trouble.
Well, and
keeps me out of trouble. I get to run around the world and people clap, and it's a great job.
and for our listeners that want more, you actually come on, I think, every Sunday night on Facebook. I see.
Yeah, we've been doing a live stream since the pandemic every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central Time. I'm not sure how many more we'll do given that I'm back on the road, back to work now. But we'll do some. The people want it, we'll give it to them, and I've had a great time doing it.
And if you can raise some money on Patreon or something, do you have it set up so they can give
People
money?
tip us. They send us $20 on Venmo and PayPal. It works. It's not for the money though. It's really we
Right.
did it to reach people while we were trapped in our homes and they were trapped in their homes. It was great. It was just incredible having the opportunity to reach people around the world simultaneously. We broadcasted.
Yeah, one of my favorite French Quarter musicians during the COVID, he had a live band play at a house, and they were videotaping it, live streaming it. It was so good. But they turned the camera around, and his neighbor was out on her front porch dancing with an umbrella. It's like, still
Yeah.
New Orleans, baby.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, I saw that.
David something, I can't remember his name. So, the book is Saved by a Song. Where can people get that?
That is available everywhere.
Excellent. That's what you want to hear. And your website, you want to tell us, tell the folks where your website is and where they can find
Yeah,
it.
MaryGauthier.com. It's all there. It's all there.
Gauthier.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Have we left anything off you'd like to mention?
No, we covered a lot of ground. It was great talking with y'all today.
It was so nice. I really
Great
appreciate
to have
the
you today too.
Thank y'all.
concert for us and talking about your background and your life.
Oh, and what do you have in the works right now? We always like to ask different
Pushing the
writers,
book out.
artists. Yeah.
Well, the books, but mostly I am hitting the road again. All the dates that got canceled are being rescheduled, and I'm going to be on the road. All the tour dates are on the website. We're announcing several rounds more coming up. I'm gonna be traveling till December. It's busy.
You come into New
Wow.
Orleans or Louisiana during all that?
I don't know. I haven't got anything on the books right now, but there are several places that I do like playing in Baton Rouge, so we'll see if I can land one.
I'd like to come meet you sometime.
Be my pleasure, Bruce.
Well, it's so nice meeting
Be
you
fun.
online, and best of luck. I will say I could not recommend this book anymore. It's a great book. It's a great. It's not that long either. It doesn't take too long to read it.
Yeah, people are reading it in one sitting, they tell me. I don't
It
know.
took me a few more than that, but
Yeah.
And the music is
but I read it
fantastic.
quickly. It was
Thank you.
maybe 3 or 4 days, and I love your music. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, you take care.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Y'all take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.